Over the years, we have seen a number of Kickstarter projects come and go, some of which spread their wings and soared, and others that unceremoniously crashed and burned. For every major success like Shovel Knight, you've got your mighty number 9s to cast doubt in what's overall proven to be a pretty shaky and risky platform. One particular project that I was really looking forward to succeeding was the System Shock Remake, developed by Night Dive Studios. Everything started out really optimistically, with high interest being displayed among those who grew up playing the seminal game series that went on to inspire other iconic franchises like Deus Ex and BioShock. The alpha gameplay demo that they released alongside the launch of the Kickstarter campaign also showed a lot of promise, expressing the proper atmosphere with a unique mix of contemporary and retro graphics, and showing a good vertical slice of the type of modernized gameplay we can expect. It seemed to teeter the line of staying true to the original while making the appropriate upgrades that a remake warrants perfectly. But then, after the very successful funding of the project, things slowly began to go awry when the team decided to veer off course by changing engines from Unity to Unreal. While the shift did improve graphics on a technical level, a distinct art style was sacrificed along the way. Worse, as the development team kept updating backers, it became clear that the project was becoming something else entirely from what was originally promised. Instead of pursuing a modern, faithful remake of the original game, the project soon devolved into a reimagining, which is not what was originally promised. The more time passed, the more the project continued to deviate from the original alpha demo they showcased to give us a general idea of the game's direction, and it became clear that the amount of financial support they garnered from Kickstarter got to their heads, resulting in a loss of focus. Eventually, the December 2017 deadline by which the game was supposed to launch came and went. The project was still in the early stages of development, and finally, on February 16, 2018, it was announced that Night Dive Studios would be put on hiatus to give them some time to regroup and return to the game's original vision. Last time I talked about the game, this was where we had left things off, but a few developments have occurred since then. On April 6, 2018, Night Dive provided a general update from the hiatus informing how the team intends to refocus. First things first, they showed a couple screenshots that, while still from Unreal Engine, displayed a visual fidelity and art style that was much more in line with the original alpha demo, which was certainly nice to see. This was something that the update acknowledged as well, stating that the team has gone back to the original vision shared at the start of the Kickstarter campaign, but with more reliable performance and higher fidelity visuals thanks to the shift from Unity to Unreal. Now, some people were concerned that Night Dive Studios was essentially starting all over again with this project, but they assured that this was not the case, reassuring that they have been able to repurpose or reuse the majority of the work they've done over the past year, and in turn make significant progress in a very short amount of time. They also promised that come September of this year, high-tier backers would be able to playtest the beginning of the game in private. There was also discussions about music and how that's being re-examined to adhere to modern standards while staying true to the source material, and then in an FAQ session, the update once again reassured that the refocused version of the game would keep the story unchanged and that the gameplay would be very similar to the original game, with the biggest difference being the UI, which is intended to be a hybrid of System Shock 1 and 2. This was all a stark contrast to what they had previously said about how gameplay will be different and reimagined with modern level design principles and whatnot. Answering a couple more questions, they talked about how they'll be revisiting the style and feel of the original game by adhering to the alpha demo that served as the foundation of the Kickstarter campaign. They talked about how the game will now be closer to a one-to-one remake with updated designs, but very little of the core gameplay altered, and whatnot. These were all things that Kickstarter backers were definitely relieved to hear, but they also had to come to terms with the fact that development on the game is behind enough at this point that it may not even be out by 2019 based on one of Night Dive's FAQ responses, though the studio expressed their commitment towards finishing this game in a state that was promised. Moving on, another update was provided in May, which was a good sign, as providing constant updates was one thing that Night Dive Studios wasn't very good at prior to the hiatus. In it, the team discussed how the past month has been insanely productive, with a lot of progress being made with things like puzzles, interface, and interaction, and they also showed off a couple more screenshots that highlighted graphics that are more distinct than when we last saw the game on Unreal and that much closely resembles the alpha demo. Aside from a handful of reassurances though, not much else to glean from the May update. Overall, there's definitely a reignited sense of optimism permeating from the project and its backers. That's not to say that there aren't those who haven't expressed their frustration at how, despite almost 2 years having passed since the Kickstarter campaign launched, the game seems to be nowhere near complete, with the release window potentially extending past 2019. But hey, at least the project is now being realized as originally intended, and while I do think people should still hold the developers accountable and approach the situation with trepidation, I'd much rather that the team take this opportunity to learn from their mistakes and take all the time they need to deliver the game that they promised. At the same time though, Night Dive is walking on thin ice right now, so they better keep backers updated every month and actually show signs of progress beyond a couple of environmental screenshots moving forward. They can provide all the reassurances that they want, but if we don't see that progress being made in tangible form, then it won't amount to anything. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It is completely optional, but donating even as little as $1 a month will go a long way in helping maintain this channel. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.